Mr. Swan's class. Today I will be teaching you about Edouard Manet. Edouard Manet was an innovator in painting. He was the father of the Impressionists, and he really started this whole new movement of painting what we truly see. He was influenced heavily by Velázquez. From Velázquez, he got many of the darker palette paintings, and also some of his styles. Also, Goya was a large influence on him, and Spanish painters in general. Many of his subject matters include Spanish themes. Now, he also impressed many people. Of course, most notable would be Monet and Renoir, who he worked with in his later years, and also Impressionists in general, as it was the art style he created. So let's just delve right into the paintings, shall we? This is Manet's The Dead Toreador. He is a bullfighter. This is actually the smaller piece of a larger painting, which was cut down for dramatic effect. There was actually a bull in an arena in the original painting, but this piece was cut out because Manet was actually mocked because the bull was too small, according to the art critics. In fact, there were even cartoons and magazines of a little tiny bull killing a giant man. It was actually kind of funny if you saw it. But anyway, you can clearly see Velázquez's influence in this painting. It's a darker painting using darker colors. Also, it's very baroque. There's his body stretched diagonally across the canvas. And it's really one of my favorite paintings. Actually, in the National London Gallery, Velázquez has a painting almost exactly like this where it depicts a dead soldier in an identical pose. And it's got much of the same coloring and tonal values as well as lighting and brushwork. This is Manet's The Execution of Maximilian. Maximilian was the Emperor of Mexico. He was installed by Napoleon III and was actually executed by the Mexicans during the Mexican Civil War. Now in this painting, Manet borrowed heavily from Goya's 3rd of May, which he had seen 2 years previously in Madrid. He was very intrigued by the idea of painting about modern political subjects such as this. Next we have This is Manet's Lola de Valence, which was painted in 1862. This shows his interest with the Spanish subject matter, as this is a Spanish dancer, and also the pose is very reminiscent of a Spanish painting. Next we have Cut It Off.
Well, Manet, well, it'd be my most favorite painting.
Dying in these pigs!
Get him!
Oh! Get him! Oh!
This is Titian's Venus of Urbino. Now again, this is a very accepted painting of the time. This is Manet's Olympia. Now if you notice, it's almost exactly like Titian's Venus of Urbino, but it was met with outrage at the time. In fact, it wasn't even displayed until 2 years later when it was accepted to the Salon. Now the outrage was for many reasons. One is that it was not a goddess depicted as the nude. Also, she was very bold. She wasn't shy at all, like most of the classical nudes. And if you take the clues from the painting, she is actually a woman of the night, or a prostitute. Now, if you look more closely at her head, you will see that she has a flower behind her ear and a black bow around her neck. Now, I'm not sure about France at this time, but this was supposed to signify that she was in fact a prostitute. Looking at her foot, you can see her sandal dangling off. Now this just shows that she isn't shy at all, which is another problem with the painting. Now in the right, you can see a cat. It's slightly reared and looking directly at you. This makes it so that you, the viewer, are actually the suitor in the room with the prostitute. This is actually not by Manet. This is a painting that inspired one of his paintings. This is actually by Raimondi. It's called The Judgment of Paris. Now, at the time, this was a very accepted piece. And now, if you'll look at Manet's painting, this is The Picnic. Now, this was a very controversial painting, even though it's very, very similar to the first painting we see here. It was actually shocked the public and was not accepted at all. Mostly because of the nude female, of course, and she's staring right at you. Now, also, it created an uproar because it was not a classical painting, and it did have nude figures in it, which was not acceptable at the time. At the Folies Bergère. This is a bar at the Folies Bergère. Now, if you look closely, you will see that it is a very... What are you people doing? This was Monet's last famous piece. He painted it about a year before he died. Now, it depicts an actual bar in Paris, and this is actually a barmaiden at the bar. Now, behind her is a giant mirror, so all the people you're seeing are in the background. And this is kind of a funny painting, because you, the viewer, can see a reflection of where you should be, but you see a man with a top hat and a mustache. Now, if you look at her looking straight on, she's very slumped and seems kind of apathetic. But if you look at her reflection in the mirror, she almost looks eager, a conundrum indeed. This is a zoom in on the upper left portion of the painting. Now, as you can see, there's some bottles and some fruit. Now, Manet in his later paintings would often paint fruit in various stages of being peeled and such. This is a zoom in of the crowd in the mirror. Now, if you look closely, you can see that most of the people are just smatters of paint from the brush, and there's very little detail, yet you can still tell exactly what it is. There is actually a little lady on a trapeze in the upper corner.
We're on.
I'm eating cake.
Cut. Action.
Oh, hello friends. Thank you for watching. And remember, I put the art in smart.
And that's a wrap.